If you're starting seeds indoors, the setup matters more than people realize. And the good news is this: you don't need anything fancy. You just need the right basics set up the right way. So today I'm going to show you my indoor seed starting setup. The trays, the lights, and a few simple habits that make a big difference. Welcome to Garden State Veg. My name is Jeff. This channel is all about growing vegetables in a simple, practical way, especially for backyard and raised bed gardeners. And I want to say this right up front: you do not need to copy my setup exactly. But if you're trying to start seeds indoors and you're not sure what matters most, this video will give you a clear, simple starting point. All right, let's get to it. Let's start with trays and containers, because this is where people tend to overthink things. Here's the truth: there isn't one perfect seed starting tray for everything. I use a few different types. It depends on what I'm growing. But what I care about most is pretty simple: good drainage, enough room for roots to get started, and something that's easy to manage under the lights. So I use standard cell trays in a couple different sizes. But I'll be honest, you don't even need official seed trays. You can use simple containers like yogurt cups, solo cups, takeout containers, whatever you have. But there's one important rule: you must have drainage at the bottom. So if you're using solo cups or takeout containers, poke or drill a hole in the bottom and you're good to go. Now I also keep small pots like these. I use these for potting up later, and that's a whole separate topic. We'll cover that in a future video. Next up is germination. For some things I use a humidity dome. It helps keep moisture consistent, and it can make germination more reliable. But here's the key: once the seeds sprout, that dome comes off pretty quickly, because at that point seedlings need airflow. You don't want them sitting in warm, stagnant, over-humid air. So let's talk about heat. I do have a heat map. I don't use it for everything, but it's really helpful for warm season crops like tomatoes and peppers. And this is important. Heat is mainly for germination. It helps seeds sprout, but it's not something seedlings need forever. Lighting is probably the most important part of any seed starting setup. If I had to pick one thing that makes the difference between strong seeds and weak seedlings, it's the light. I use GE LED grow lights. They're mounted above the trays. And one note here: with LED grow lights like these, you typically don't have to have the lights as close to the seedlings as you would with basic shop lights. So I keep them at a good distance, close enough for strong light, but not so close that the plants get stressed, and not so close that I'm constantly bumping the lights every time I check the trays. The main goal is simple: strong lights so seedlings don't stretch. Now I also run my lights on a timer, about 14 to 16 hours a day. The timer makes this whole thing easier because consistency matters more than the exact brand of light you use. A decent light used consistently with the right placement will grow strong seedlings. And if you're curious what lights I'm using, or if you want links, leave me a comment. I'm happy to share it with you. One thing I always include in my setup is air movement. I use one small fan. Nothing fancy. It stays on low setting. And right now I don't have any seeds under lights, but once they're up, this fan creates a gentle airflow across them. Now you're not trying to bend the plants over. You just want enough movement so the air isn't sitting still. That airflow does a couple important things. First, it helps prevent problems like mold or dampening off. Second, it helps seedlings grow strong stems. It's sort of like a light workout for the plants. I run the fan during the day when the lights are on, and that's it. Everything in my setup sits on simple shelving racks. Nothing complicated. Just something sturdy, easy to work with, and again, timer is doing a lot of the work for me. Once the lights and fan are on, and they're on a schedule, everything stays consistent, and that means fewer mistakes. Now let's talk about watering. This is another area where people can run into trouble. I water gently, and I water consistently, and I usually bottom water. The big mistake with seedlings is keeping everything soaking wet. Seedlings do need moisture, but they also need oxygen. So I try to keep things evenly moist, not dry, but definitely not saturated. So that's my indoor seed starting setup. Trays and containers, lights, heat, air movement, and a few simple habits that make the whole process easier. And remember, you don't need to copy my setup exactly. Start simple, use what you have, and build from there. Now that you've seen the setup, the next video is where the fun begins. I'm going to be starting my onion seeds, so you don't want to miss that. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, and also consider subscribing so you don't miss my future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.